COVID-19 is in our communities and the number of cases is on the rise. So it's essential that we each play our part in full by following all of the government guidance. Only by doing this can we keep our schools and businesses open. If you're young and healthy, you may feel the virus isn't a threat to you. But someone more vulnerable to coronavirus than you, perhaps someone closer to you than you realise, is depending on you to play your part in breaking the chain of transmission. So I'm asking everyone to do their bit. Stick to the rule of 6 for gatherings indoors or outdoors. Wash your hands thoroughly and regularly. Wear a face covering in enclosed spaces. Observe social distancing of 2 metres or 1 metre plus precautions where 2 metres really isn't possible. Follow all of the guidelines about car sharing. If you have symptoms, self-isolate and get a free test immediately. If we work together on this, we can control the spread of the virus. Thank you. My name's Jonathan Gribbin, and I'm the Director of Public Health for Nottinghamshire, and I lead the county's response to COVID-19. None of us want our children to miss out on all of the benefits that school brings. So I want to let you know just how hard our schools have been working to ensure that they've all got in place the sensible precautions to receive back pupils at the start of the new year. But of course, all of us need to play our part in stopping the spread. So alongside the guidance you know about already, I also want to urge you to follow the guidance on safe travel to school. Please walk or cycle, or if a car journey really is essential because you live more than 2 miles from school, please arrange drop-offs well away from the school itself. You can find out more details about this and about all of the other government guidance on our website. If you've any questions about plans or arrangements at a particular school, then the school itself will be the best place to answer them. Thank you for watching.
Okay, we are live. So good morning to everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of the Communities and Place Committee, which is being held remotely with the majority of the 11 members joining the meeting from their own homes. As well as myself, the other members present in the meeting are the following councillors: Pauline Allen, Jim Creamer, Glyn Guilfoyle, Kevin Greaves, John Handley, Tom Hollis, Bruce Lawton, John Ogle, Kevin Rostance and Phil Rostance. Councillors Butler, Carr, Dobson, Fole and Gordon Wheeler are also in attendance. And we also have the following officers present today: Adrian Smith, Corporate Director Place, Matthew Neal, Service Director Investment and Growth, Peter Gore, Chief Executive Inspire, Ian Bond, Learning Manager Inspire, Doug Coots, Managing Director of Via East Midlands, Helen North, Improvements Lead, Via East Midlands, Gary Wood, Group Manager Highways and Transport, Sue Jakes, Flood Risk Manager, Mick Allen, Group Manager Place Commissioning, Martin Canafin, Contract Manager Environment and Resources, and the clerk to the meeting is Noel McMenamin. Other officers may be called to provide information during the meeting, and these will be introduced at the appropriate time. This meeting of Communities and Place is being held in line with the new requirements of the Coronavirus Act 2020. Please do bear with us if we experience any technical issues. If we do lose any members from the call temporarily, then officers will seek to assist in getting them reconnected as soon as possible. Hopefully without the need to halt proceedings, officers will inform the meeting if they are unable to rectify the problem, and we may need to adjourn or pause the meeting temporarily. Because there is unavoidable double numbering in the agenda papers, I would appreciate if members refer to agenda pack page numbers during any discussions. Finally, can I ask you to keep your microphones on mute when not addressing the committee, as this minimises sound distortion on the Teams meeting. That's worn me out already. Okay, so we'll start the meeting with item 1, which is minutes of the last meeting held on the 3rd of September 2020. Is everyone happy with the minutes? I'm presuming if anybody has a problem, they'll put the hand up or signify. Okay, that's approved then, thank you. Item 2 is apologies for absence. Could I ask the clerk, please?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Apologies from Councillor Vaughan Hopewell, who is unwell, and Kevin Rostance is substituting today. No other apologies received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any members or officers present have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? And do any members or officers present have any private interests to declare? No.
Director of VIA.
I'm sorry, Councillor Ogle.
Director of VIA, John.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guilfoyle.
Yes, Chairman. Along with yourself, I'm a director nominated from the County Council to Inspire.
Thanks, Lynn. And I also declare that same interest. Noel, thank you.
Just to note, Chairman, that my hand is gone. It was here in the pre-meeting, but it's gone. So apologies for if I talk rather than putting my hand up.
Okay, well, if you can put your physical hand up, then I'm sure we'll catch you, John. Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 4 is the development update and 4th year review for Inspire. I'll formally move the recommendation in the pack, which is on page 14, that members consider the update on the development of Inspire in the delivery of cultural learning and library services across Nottinghamshire and its achievements in the 4th year of operation, and agree to receive future performance updates on these services. So I propose that recommendation. I'll look for a seconder, please.
I'll second that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now invite Peter Gore, Chief Executive of Inspire, to introduce the report. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. So members will have seen the report, and it's our 4th report to this committee about giving you an update on Inspire and its development. I'm going to, with Chair's permission, do a short presentation to provide you with that update. So I'm going to try and access the share screen facility. So if you can just bear with me a moment. Okay, I'm hoping members will now see a PowerPoint.
We can indeed.
Excellent, thank you, Adrian. Okay, so this is our 4th year presentation, and I just wanted to remind members of the scope of services that Inspire provides, and often Inspire is associated with the public library service, which is absolutely right, and is about half of our activity. But just to remind you that we cover a broader range of cultural and learning services that are provided. So there's a list there just to remind you of the broad range. And I would highlight, one of there are several reasons why Inspire was started. Financial, yes, but there was also a thought of the synergy of some of those services. And as you will see through the presentation, the library service is enriched greatly by those other areas of service around learning and culture. So just to, as pointed out in paragraph 10 of the report, Inspire continues to be accredited across its services, so customer service excellence, the Matrix Award around its information and advice for the public and for learners in terms of their career guidance and training opportunities. I'm sure Ian will mention it in his report later in the meeting, the nominations for Times Education Supplements Award for our community learning and our GCSE provision, Design Award for the work done at Beeston Library, and Family Friendly Arts Award. So we continue to provide a range of high quality services. So just a little bit about finance. So paragraphs 11 to 15 outlines our financial journey that we've been on. So it includes highlighting the services delivered for the council, and it also highlights the range of additional funding brought down to enhance the work that we can do across our cultural and learning programmes. So that's just a high level view of the value for money aspects of the Inspire model. So the report focuses in paragraph 18 on a long list of achievements, and I would say that list is quite hard to produce because there's so much activity that's happening. We estimate, because it's sometimes difficult, that in a pre-COVID world we were delivering 200 events, activities and courses every week across our libraries and archives. So this is some of the highlights. I always say that those highlights are great, but some of our aspirations around customer service is that if you turn up at one of our small libraries on a wet Wednesday afternoon in the middle of the winter, you'll get the same warm welcome and excellent customer service that you would if you're attending one of these more high profile organised events. So I'm going to be extremely brave at this point and stop sharing the screen, and then I'm going to run a video. So if you again will just bear with me a moment. I can see you all again. I'm going to share a different screen. So I'm assuming members can see a screen that has got the Inspire logo and the County Council logo.
Yes, that's come.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a short video which will give you just an overview of paragraph 18 in pictures rather than me just trying to describe it, which I think is much more useful for you. So hopefully members have got back to the remainder of the presentation, which I'll just take you through now. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity in this report, although this report was due to be presented in April, a COVID update and a response and recovery element of the report that can be seen in paragraphs 21 to 29. So members will be aware that as with the rest of the country, libraries were closed down on the 23rd. We made a decision on the 20th to close and suspend all our services. So we quickly moved into upping our virtual offer to reach people at home. So I won't go into great detail, but there was a lot of work to shift our digital presence and give people access to things that they could previously only get whilst visiting libraries. So, for example, direct access to family history ancestry sites, which is very popular, and some of our other original resources. So I give great credit to our staff for really responding very quickly, both in terms of continuing our offer, keeping in contact with our customers through our helpline, through shutdown, close down, and also the quick action for staff to secure sites and keep them safe during the period of lockdown. Inspire also got involved in a range of new opportunities to share culture and learning. So a couple of the festivals across Nottinghamshire, the Upload Festival, the Not Stopping Festival, a poetry tour by Henry Normal, and we continue as recently with the Simon Armitage Inspire Poetry Festival, National Poetry Day today, so very apt, and our book award through the Education Library Service. And it's just an innovative way of still reaching audiences and customers. So just a quick update. So the majority of our libraries are open, providing a secure environment, COVID secure environment. We've developed a new click and collect service, which is extremely popular for people who don't want to come in and browse. One of the few library services from the 6th of July nationally to offer browsing without a time limitation, access to ICT, access to our information service and our print and scanning services. And over the period, we've been increasing times and the extent of the offer, and that's what we'll carry on doing in a safe way. Our archives are open by appointment, have seen an increase in use for its reprographic services from the county, but also international inquiries. Our adult education service, Ian's going to update you in the next report, but shifted to 100% online delivery in June from a standing start. So again, great credit to our colleagues for really shifting their approach to learning delivery. And our study and access to HE programmes, which do require students to spend time with tutors, especially around the vocational skills elements, have carried on right through, and again Ian will highlight some of the success around that in his report. And our services to schools, which around music provision and the library service provision, have been operating in a blended way, but are now operating well back into schools since term started in September. This slide just gives you a sample of some of the customer feedback that we receive regularly. I received another lot this morning. I haven't included them, but just people coming back to us saying how much they appreciate the service, how much they appreciate the way that we're providing it in a COVID secure way, and people feel safe and while we're accessing that. So I've spent 1 or 2 days in libraries talking to staff and customers. That feels feedback to have. And then members will also be aware that Inspire, across all its services, has been trying to focus its messaging and its services around recovery. So focusing on recovery in terms of the economy and recovery in terms of community well-being. So there's, on that slide, there's just some examples. We recently did a draw drop, replacing our normal prospectus draw drop to the majority of households in the county, and we had some really good feedback on that, and really positive take up of some of our programmes, and seeing an increased footfall in our libraries. So again, I think we've been fleet of foot to do that, and key message that we're open to our communities. That's the end of my report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Very interesting. Well done. Would any of the members of the committee like to make any comments or ask any questions? Councillor Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'm proud to be one of the members who sit on the Inspire board. I mean, if you look at the work that they've done prior to COVID, which is emphasised within the report, it's absolutely fantastic. And I think that the added value that they've brought in, I think it was about 1.6 million in grant aid additionality that they brought in, that covers all aspects of arts, crafts, etc., is unbelievable. And getting money like that does take some work. And I think, you know, I'd like to commend the officers, Peter, and all the rest of the staff for what they've been doing over that particular time. I think one of the key things that I picked up from the presentation was the bit about a lifeline, that the individual there who said about it being a lifeline during COVID. We all know that libraries and Inspire in general is a lifeline anyway, for people to get that opportunity to participate in loads of things. And I'm sure even more so during COVID that lifeline was needed. And, you know, again, thanks to the staff for the work that they've done during that particular period to keep the service going as much as possible out there. I mean, one of the things that strikes me is the fact that the number of young people who will have not been able during this last period to participate in some of the poetry, some of the other activities, the arts and crafts that they do for very, very young people, you know, that including young mums that come in with their children, you know, will have not have had that and will have missed out on so much in this particular year. But I'm sure, you know, we can look forward to the future where the library service and Inspire in general will continue to be a big part of Nottinghamshire's community. So in all, it's a big thank you to everybody, all the staff for what they've done, and also for what is a brilliant amount of activities. I'll not say any. I mean, the other report relation second coming up next. I might as well say that as well, John. At the time, is kill two birds with one stone. Is
okay. The
work that Ian's been doing as well and his team in learning is phenomenal, and I know that has took a lot of work to get up and running, but you can see the results on the pass rates. And I've, you know, and I know myself and you have been to see people who are learning there, and the feeling that you get, you know, when you see people being able to learn, some people that have never even probably participated before in things such as that. So again, a very big congratulations to the staff, and more power to their elbow.
Thank you, Glyn. Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Pauline Allen.
Thank you, John. Having been involved in the initial stages of this, I have to just say a very quick congratulations to everyone who's there, and I have been still been involved, and I am in awe and admiration of all the new ideas they have and how much they take things to the public. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much for that, and I agree with you totally. An excellent service, and Peter, another fantastic report. So we'll thank the team for us, please, for what they've done. I've got Councillor Gordon Wheeler who'd like to say something. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, John. For those of us who were in the Finance and Major Contracts Committee meeting the other day, and I know John Noble certainly was, and I think Tom was as well, you'd have heard the praise being heaped on Inspire, not just under the leadership of the gentleman who made this wonderful presentation. Thank you, Peter, but also the staff behind all of that. That's the important thing, really. And so it was nice to hear the praise coming from outside of this committee, from a different committee. So very much what's been said today. I'm certainly not going to repeat that because it's all been said already. But well done, mate, and well done to all the team. And that as I said, not just from this committee, but also from the Finance and Major Contracts Committee, as you heard the other day. Thanks very much, John.
Thank you, Gordon. Is there any other speakers? I can't see any. Okay, so we'll move to the vote then. And in this, we do it by asking if there's any votes against. Are there any abstentions? So I'm presuming then that the committee is in favour of a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Chair.
We now move to item 5, which is the Inspire Annual Learning Plan and fees. Are you taking that to start with, Peter, or is Ian?
So I'm going to quickly hand over to Ian, and I'm going to be running the slideshow. So
okay, thank you. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Peter. Morning, everybody. Yes, so I'm now going to just take you briefly through a kind of an overview of Inspire Learning. As you know, this is, as Peter mentioned, it's a kind of deferred paper from April. As you know, we're in the habit of bringing an annual paper that talks about the coming academic year. So this is really looking at the current now 2020-21 academic year. And within the report, then there's Appendix 1 is one which I'm going to expand a little bit about is around some of the achievements in the previous academic year of 2018-19 and also 2019-20. Paragraph 3 of the report actually talks about some of the changes we've done for COVID-19 delivery, and the big thing is a shift to basically going to online delivery, which was a big change for our service, and one which I'd like to thank all of my colleagues for taking in their stride and doing really well. Paragraph 4 then talks about our plans for 2020-21, which is to continue to move forward. And obviously to do that in a way which is meeting COVID-19 restrictions as appropriate. And then in paragraph 5, we talk about the ESFA funding and also our fees setting, which is then outlined in Appendix 2, and we're recommending that we keep the fees unchanged for the current academic year. And then finally, Appendix 3 is around our subcontracting arrangements for the current 2020-21. So as I mentioned, I'd like now just to briefly go through a quick presentation that basically takes us through looking at some of the key achievements we've had in the 2018-19 academic year and also the 2019-20 academic year. So as you can see here, this first slide is looking at the 2018-19 academic year and some of our kind of key performances. And one of the things that we're really pleased about for that academic year is that actually in terms of both our adult delivery, which is accredited, and our 16 to 18 provision for young people, which is also accredited, for the first time in our delivery as a service, our actual performance in delivering those accredited qualifications was above the national benchmark. And that's fantastic, because colleagues will know that we have only started doing adult direct delivery since the academic year 2016-17, and in that time the performance has gone up year on year and is now, as I say, at a point where we're actually above the national achievement rates for accredited qualifications, and that's fantastic. And then in terms of our delivery to our young people, 16 to 18, again, I'm really proud of the fact that we're now actually above the national benchmark, because again, I'm sure councillors will be aware of the fact that our service is established to work with those young people who wouldn't otherwise have access to training. So we take the young people who would otherwise be at risk of being that horrible acronym NEET, not in education, employment or training. So the fact that we are able to work with those young people who frankly other providers would not wish to work with, and we're able to actually achieve above the national benchmark in terms of the qualifications that they get, I'm proud of that, and I think it's something that is very good. So then moving to looking at the last academic year, 1920, just to say that that good performance has grown. And in terms of the summer 2020, although the examinations were not normal exams because the young people weren't able to sit the papers, we still were able to improve the pass rate for our GCSE resits in English and maths. So in 2019 summer, we had 59% of our young people getting a grade 4 or above, which is the old C. And this summer, 2020, that went up to 64%, and that's 11% above the actual national benchmark. And then for English, in 2019, we had 43% of our young people passing. This year, it's gone to 49%, and again, that's above 8% above the 2020 national benchmark. As Peter mentioned in his presentation, we've also been shortlisted for 2 TES Further Education Awards, one for the actual best overall adult community learning service and another one for the best GCSE resits, because our resit performance is significantly above the national performance, and that's hopefully will be recognised. And the actual event will be virtual and held on the 16th of October, so we're keeping our fingers crossed and hope for the best. But it's great to be nominated, and it's the I think it's the 3rd year now we've been nominated in a row, so that's very encouraging. As I say, our achievement rates for both our young people and for our adults for the 2019-20 academic year won't be finalised until the final return to the ESFA, which is in October. But I am confident, looking at our management information system, that it will be building upon what was our best year ever, which was 18-19. And as I say, just to say, we've shifted to online provision since March 23rd, and that's been really successful. Just to re-emphasize the GCSE, you can see, I hope, on the kind of graph on the left, just the kind of the trend, because that's the thing, the 2 lines represent English and maths, and the other dotted lines are the English and maths national benchmarks. And while the national benchmarks, unfortunately, in the last 3 years have actually fallen for both English and maths, which is a shame, you can see how our performance for both maths and English has increased considerably. So that's just great, and it's a trend that I really want to, because, you know, as you know, for a young person, if we can get them a GCSE pass in maths and English, that's really going to help improve their life chances quite considerably. So it's a really important metric for us as a service. And then I think that in summary, as I've mentioned, 18-19 was our best performance to date in terms of our achievement rates and in terms of what we did. 19-20 seems to be building on making that be better than 18-19, so we're building on that success. I think the shift to online has been a huge undertaking, but it actually has been successful. And our recruitment this term for 19+ community learning has actually been higher than it was this time last year in 2019, when in fact we were doing more traditional face-to-face delivery. And our plans for 2021 are also around using some of external funding we've got access to, and to ensure that our service continues to provide our residents with support for retraining, because as we all know, it's likely to be quite an economically challenging period with, you know, the furlough scheme coming to an end and other impacts, and we need to play our role, and we're very keen to and are planning to play as big a role as we can in helping our residents to retrain and prepare for and be as resilient as they can facing the difficulties that we all face. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ian. And you said at the beginning how proud you were, and you should be, for the work that you've put in and your team. So I would like to say well done to the achievements that you've have brought into this service. Thank you. Peter, do you want to say anything on the fees at all before I do the recommendation, or you just want to take any questions? No response.
Sorry, I'm happy to just take questions.
Okay,
Councillor Cotter, if that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Right, so I've been told off by Noel because I've not done the recommendation. So I'd like to propose the recommendation. Number 1, acknowledges the performance and outcomes during 2018 academic year, including the performance of accredited learning against national achievement rates, which is Appendix 1. Number 2 is approves the service plan for 2020-2021 academic year. And 3, approves the service plan for use of the Education and Skills Funding Agency in the 2020 to 2021 academic year. Number 4, approves the schedule of fees for the 2020-2021 academic year, Appendix 2. And 5, approves the supply chain arrangements for the 2020 to 2021 academic year, Appendix 3. So I propose that recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I happily second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rostance. Is there any questions or comments from members of the committee? I've got Councillor John Handley.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say, having worked in education all my life, to read a report like this is just phenomenal. I think, you know, we have to pass on our congratulations to the whole team for producing results like this, particularly with, you know, young people who have learning difficulties. We all know about NEET people, and it's great that you're doing such a fantastic job with them. So I just want to say well done to the whole team, and long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other speakers. So you let off lightly, Ian. Thank you very much for the report.
No,
so we'll move to the vote then. Are there any votes against? Any abstentions? So I take it that that's a unanimous vote to pass the recommendations. Thank you very much, and thank you, Peter and Ian. Item 6 is the Flood Risk Management Section 19 update reports, and I will propose the recommendations that the committee approves the publishing of Section 19 report appendices A and B in accordance with Section 19 of the Flood and Water Management Act 2010 and our lead local flood authority responsibilities. 2, the committee endorses the work outline in the report. 3, the committee encourages all agencies involved to seek and implement suitable measures to alleviate flooding as soon and as reasonably possible. 4, that officers provide updates to committee on all relevant agencies' progress with alleviation measures as part of the regular flood risk management updates. I propose that recommendation.
And I will second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And could I ask Sue Jakes to present the report, please?
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Sue.
This report sets out the County Council's duties as a lead local flood authority to report on incidents under Section 19 of the Flood and Water Management Act. These 2 Section 19 reports are brought in relation to significant flooding that occurred earlier this year on the afternoon of the 17th of June. Torrential downpours resulted in significant localised flooding in Bridington, Beeston and Chilwell, with the storm delivering over half a month's worth of rain in just over an hour. A total of 54 business premises and 57 homes were internally flooded, primarily by the sheer amount of water coming from the sky and overwhelming the drainage systems, and subsequently, unfortunately, by traffic-generated bow waves. The magnitude of the event enabled the County Council to reactivate the hardship fund for households and businesses, providing emergency payments. We are working closely with all our partners and give our thanks to those in the community affected who worked so hard to lessen the impacts of the flooding. Our ask of committee today is to approve and support the recommendations and the publishing of the report in line with the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much. Any members of the committee wish to comment or speak? Councillor Ogle.
Yes, Chairman. There'll not be a Section 19 report on the East Markham one residential, and I'm aware what went off here, but I think there's the scope here to find some positive information that could actually help the service. On this street, there was some building higher up. I asked the highways officer to approach them and ask the builders to be more careful about the amount of debris that were left on the road. The parish council did. The householder, he tells me, he only approached me when it flooded. He tells me that he'd approached the highways and expressed his anxiety on a number of times, but he'd flooded previously. So, and they'd assured him that he was safe and he wasn't going to flood. Well, he was an elderly chap. Him and his wife are both ill. And to be fair to the service, they went in and cleaned up. So they gave him a lot of support, which I'm very grateful for, and that's appreciated by those two people. But it'd just be interesting to know in this particular case, when this drainage chamber, because it all revolves around a drainage chamber that was blocked, whether it was blocked with the debris from the building further up, and it'd be useful for, I think us all, but certainly me, to know when this was maintained and when the flooding had occurred previously, because I don't remember him approaching me in the last few years about that. So if I could have if it could just be investigated and I could get a report back, we might be able to get something positive out of that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'll go through all the councillors who wish to speak and then ask you to come back afterwards, sir, if that's okay. So I've got Councillor Tom Hollis next.
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, thank you for the report. But I just have a number of questions really and points to raise. So I'll just start with paragraph 9, which is obviously part of the section 19 report summary. Whilst I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, that incidents like flash flooding can happen occasionally, I do not think that our gullies are cleaned often enough. This council adopts a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach to gully cleaning. I have had it confirmed from via East Mids that it will probably cost in the region of an additional £500,000 to cleanse every gully in the county every year. That would bring the total amount spent on scheduled gully cleansing to £1,230,000. This would also, interestingly, bring the council in line with many other councils who spend a similar figure. We have a duty to protect our residents and businesses from flooding. This proactive approach would make a significant difference. It would also save on clean-up costs. And I think, as Councillor Ogle expressed there, it's certainly obvious that many gullies haven't been cleansed for many years. And interestingly, yesterday I was door knocking in Kirkby North, obviously a division that the Independents are going to take next election. And I met the chairman of the fishing club on Mill Lane. This will probably be something that Sue's aware of already, but there was a major flood at the bottom of Mill Lane in Kirkby and Ashfield. Via and the county council did a good job in going out there to make sure it was cleaned initially, but they promised the chairman and they promised the club, for example, that they were going to go back weekly in the short term to check that particular grid and gully was clear. They haven't been back since the incident, and there was nearly hundreds of fish lost during that flood. And now the club are taking it upon themselves to build their own gully inside their own, build their own kind of ditch in their own property. But I'd draw their attention to that particular site. But also, I could go on for quite some time about the amount of gullies I've reported in Huthwaite and Grates that haven't been cleared, and then flooding has subsequently appeared.
Councillor Hollis, sorry to interrupt you, but we are not talking about the things up in your patch that you are bringing forward, and thank you for your election pledge. You're not talking to the report.
Yeah, we're talking about the Section 19 report summary, Mr. Chair. Am I missing something?
Finish off, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're talking about flooding. I'm talking about.
Well, we're not. We're talking about the flooding 19 reports.
Yeah, well, flooding 19 reports are carried out because flooding occurs, and I'm talking about flooding.
I'm not looking for an argument with you, Councillor.
I'm not looking for an argument. I don't understand what you're saying to me. If you want to get political, you know.
Well, you are. But
Chairman.
Yeah. So if I move my
Tom, can I just explain to you? I agree with what you're saying about the gullies. But there's a review of these gullies. John has got a report that he hasn't read yet. So there's been some work done by BIA. So if we could have a report on that, on the recommendations of that, that will be relevant, and then you can speak to that.
Hey, look, I'm trying to be constructive here.
Okay, thank you,
That's
John.
my whole point. So, paragraph 13, we talk about hardship funds. I think anybody that understands the devastation that internal flooding causes, £120 seems like a bit of a slap in the face. And I think an obvious question would then be is there any scope to increase that? And I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you recognise that £120 after your house has been flooded isn't exactly a lot. And genuinely, is there any scope for flexibility to increase that? Because it does seem rather low to me. And I suppose the final question would be, which maybe Sue could pick up, is what is the standard time that VIA take action when flooding is reported? But that's it, Mr. Chairman, and I'm genuinely trying to be constructive here.
Thank you, Tom. I know there is a proactive approach, and I'm sure that Sue might mention it going forward. I've got Councillor Greaves, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Fowle afterwards. Thank you, Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, unfortunately, mine is about gullies again, but in a constructive way, really. In my area, there's areas in my area that gets constantly flooded with torrential rain and by river flooding. And a lot of the houses around there are rented. Landlords are not present, they live far away. And of course, when the builders move in to renovate, I've observed a lot of the rubble that's put down the drains, especially plaster, that's being poured down the drains by builders. And would it not be helpful if residents were given a leaflet avoiding this problem, but that isn't going to solve the landlord problem? So in the event of flooding, would it be possible to have a notice put on the road, on the streets which are being flooded, warning builders it's against the law to pour plaster, concrete and everything else down the drain? Just trying to be constructive, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greaves. Councillor Fowle, and then Councillor Carr afterwards. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, John, for letting me speak, because I don't sit on this committee, so it's good of you. Thank you, it's appreciated. And also, I just want to start by saying thank you to both the flood management team and the highways officers, because it was just a very, very difficult time, and I think the response was good, and so thank you for that. I just wanted to just pick up a couple of things and make a broader question, really. It seemed, I know that some of the argument was actually, well, this was a kind of a one-off or a 1 in 100 years or whatever you want to say. And I know an awful lot of rain, I think as Sue just said, fell in a very short space of time, and I get that, I understand that. But just one thing, I kind of knocked on the door at John Clifford's school, and they reckoned from recollection, they didn't check the records, that actually they have been flooded 3 times in the last 9 years. So that's not 100-year. You know, that's not a 100-year kind of incident. The other example I was going to give you, and I mean I won't go on because I know there will be many. There was flooding on Humber Road and the corner of Maple Road. I don't think either that was in your map, but anyway, I'm not very good at geography, so I might be wrong there. But what happened there was there was a camber of the road that was facing towards a house. The drain was blocked. And I think there was kind of a fair bit of debris on the road. So the combination of all those things meant that actually the water almost went uphill and then down into somebody's house. And it struck me at the time and since, even though, as I say, the response from officers, Callum's been brilliant, was good, that actually that needs a multi-agency response. Okay, because if you think, if you think about all the agencies that could be involved, there's a borough council in terms of surface clearance. There's a gully clearance that we just had a conversation about. There's the Environment Agency, and I understand as well that there is concern around some of the drains that are actually Severn Trent water drains. So it just strikes me that if you're going to have a permanent, or as permanent as you can get in this weird climate change time, approach to this, you've got to get everybody in the room together and get a multi-agency approach. And I just wondered how possible that was, and I know it's difficult. I just wondered how possible that was, and actually, if this is like it happened. Just one last thing. I do agree with Tom's point about the hardship fund. It's very small and it's very, very means tested. And I mean, one or two of my residents who were kind of elderly, and they're not poor, but they're not rich either, you know, and they had to kind of replace it. I think it just felt like not a terribly kind of generous response to help them. And I understand that budgets are tight, but a relatively small number of people are affected in these, aren't they? Not all that often. And I just wonder if the scope to actually increase that and actually kind of lift the threshold a little bit so more people can take advantage of it. Thank you.
I'll keep pressing this unmute button and I don't get unmuted. Thank you, Councillor Foll. Councillor Carr, please. And then I've got Councillor Lawton.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman, because I'm not on this committee, but one of the reports that we've got on the committee is directly related to my division of Bramcote and Beeston North. And as far as I could see, that a lot of people, councillors, are talking about things that aren't on the agenda, but that's another matter. My division is. Welcome, Sue and Callan and her team reacted very quickly and very, very appreciative of that. Parts of Bramcote particularly flooded that have never flooded before. I know it was an unusual event, but I fear that these events are going to get more and more and more. But just really wanted to raise a couple of items for Sue and her team that I think have contributed to this problem in Bramcote particularly. And that is the two roads, Bridle Road and Cow Lane, which are on hills and drain down towards Ullswater Crescent, which is on the report. Neither of these roads have surface water drainage. The roads are the drain, basically. And what happens is when there's a huge amount of rain, it just goes down the hill, goes into Ullswater Crescent, and it stays there, and it floods houses. And so that is one issue. Another issue is, of course, and this is obviously something as a flood authority we can look at, and we will have looked at because there is an active application at the moment for the old golf course in Bramcote. And the properties at the foot of this hill were flooded. Now, my great concern is that if we don't take flooding into account, or the design is not good enough to actually prevent flooding occur, that this development will contribute to future flooding in that area, which is part of the report. I just wanted to point those out. One thing it did highlight as well is that there were actually two drains that were blocked that weren't mapped. But they are now mapped, and they have been cleaned out and are now operating. And I'd just like to welcome the report. It's identified who's responsible for what, and I'm also grateful that it's actually a quick turnaround for a Section 19 report, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. I've got Councillor Lawton who'd like to say something. Thank you. Are you with us, Bruce?
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Yeah, yes. Just a quick one really for Sue. Sue, congratulations on your Section 19 reports as ever. They are excellent. Really for Tom more than anything else. Tom, if you have a word with the gully cleaning team, they will prioritise gullies as far as drainage is concerned, particularly in areas that are at risk of flooding. For example, in Southall, they regularly clean all the gullies out every 6 months, and you just need to be able to make sure that they're on the register. And Sue, you've got a bit of flack going in on the scheme down in Southall, on the outfall, near the pub, the bottom end of Station Lane. Just to make you aware of that's all. You just need to get somebody down to have a look at it. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Guilfoyle. Thank you.
Thanks, John. First is a thank you again for the response to the 3 properties in Worksop, which are in my patch. And I know that the way that we respond does bring reassurance to those members who are suffering at the time. I do agree that the amount of money that's sort of awarded isn't a substantial amount, and clearly that's got to be based on what we can afford, because you know, we've had hundreds, and when you start upping the amount of money, that could cost and needs to be found where that can come from. But I think a review of that is a good thing, John, and if we could put that on the agenda to be reviewed. The other issue I'd like to raise, although it's not within the section 19 as such, it's coordination of works after. And my one issue is probably related to the workshop library, which flooded, and I've not seen the works that they proposed to do, but I know that people have sort of said, well, we can put walls and barriers up, and my concern on that is how that fits in with the modelling for the rest of the workshop, because clearly if you put any barrier along the right and down where it runs through to the side of the library, that water is going to be pushed elsewhere. It's either going to go stop, it's either going to prevent it from flowing through and going right on, or it's going to push the water further down and make it worse down in my area, or it's going to make the town, possibly could make the town centre. And I just wanted to know whether any works that are being done on that particular part are going to be coordinated, so that, you know, that the impact, if we, because as you know, the old saying of for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Clearly I don't want that to make other areas worse. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, I've got no more hands showing, so I'm going to go back to Sue, and I'm going to ask Gary Wood to come in after you, Sue, to talk about gullies and cleansing. Thank you, Sue.
Okay, thank you. Some of those questions are outside of these reports, so if it's all right with you, Chair, can I pick those up with individual members afterwards? So Councillor Ogle, I'll certainly have a conversation with you about East Markham. Very difficult to say whether it's the developer or whether it was the rain, but we'll certainly have a chat. Councillor Hollis, very aware of the issues that you mentioned, and we'll come back to you with an update report. Councillor Greaves, really like your idea about doing more with the residents, and we'll have a conversation with you. Councillor Fold, thank you for your comments. Certainly that local information, the points you raised, we'll have a look into and we'll come back to you. And similarly with Councillor Carr, some of that information there is very valuable, and we certainly need to look at some of those properties that are repeatedly flooding, and we are working with Broxtowe in partnership to have a look at why that might work, and also VIA have been incredibly helpful with helping us to look at some of the mitigation measures that might work. Got lots of pieces of paper here, I'm making sure I've covered everybody off. And Councillor Lawton, very aware of the issues at Southwell, and teams are currently out on site this week looking at the size of the pipe on the Southwell Trail. And I think I'll leave it there if that's all right, but we'll come back to members on all those questions raised if that's okay.
Thank you, Sue.
So, Chairman, just on mine about the library, the coordination.
Okay.
Yes, so we are working in partnership with ARC, and our PFR specialists have been involved in looking at the mitigation measures on the library, and we'll be working in partnership with ARC to move that forward.
Okay, thank you very much then, Sue. I'll go to Gary Wood now, if Gary's on there.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the questions on gullies, clearly this is an important topic, and it's one that members are keen to explore. So that has actually been discussed in Councillor Wheeler's Communities and Place Review and Development Committee, and there was a report went to that committee on the 23rd of September with some recommendations which actually intersect with quite a few of the queries that have been raised today about gully emptying frequencies and the behaviour of developers and builders. So the intention is to bring those recommendations back to your committee, back to this committee, Councillor Cotty, at the earliest opportunity, which I think will be the early December committee for members to debate and consider whether they want to take those recommendations forward.
Thank you very much, Gary. Kate, you have a hand up. Do you wish to come back to Sue at all?
Yeah. Yes, thanks, John. Yes, I would just be interested in any comments around the cross-agency, cross-partnership working that I made. I know Glyn made a similar question, but this is a bit broader, I think.
So okay. I'm happy to pick that up, Sue, and Councillor Cotty, if you're happy for me to take that question. Yes. So I think in our role as the lead local flood authority, Councillor Fall, that's really at the heart of everything that we do. So we regularly meet with all of the agencies and partners, and we've got good partnership working arrangements with them all. And our flood risk management action plan that we brought to committee last time round reflects that. And I think if there are specific incidences where you think that's not working, then please speak to either myself or Sue, and we can pick that up and make sure that's taking place. But you know, things are, from my perspective, things are really good around that coordination and a lot better than they used to be.
Thank you very much, Gary. Are you okay with that, Kate? Yep. Okay. No other speakers. Oh, Bruce Lawton, I can see a hand. Do you wish to come back?
Yeah, Sue, just a quick one. What does PFR stand for?
Property flood resilience.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Well done, Phil. Yeah. Okay, no other speakers. Oh, Phil, sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you completely.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to come in at the end because we have witnessed some devastating impacts of flooding across the county over the last year or so, and it seems that we've had some Section 19 reports, or a handful of them, coming to committee each month. So again, I just wanted to say a big well done and thank you to Sue and the team who are doing a great job. And it's really good to hear from members in affected areas the great response they've been having from the team here at NCC. But we do have great relationships with all the councils, and we'll continue to work closely with Broxtowe Borough, via East Midlands and Rushcliffe to continue to investigate the drainage systems in those areas. And Sue and the team are also exploring different funding channels, and they're great at doing this. So hopefully, once we've got some hydraulic modelling in place, they'll be able to get some capital investment schemes that may help in these areas as well. And I just want to mention at the end that this flood event, we can't go without mentioning and recognising the community spirit of all those that were affected, because without this, I think the impacts could have been even worse than they were. But thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, so we'll move to the vote then. The recommendations we've had. So anybody against the recommendations? Any abstentions? I see none. So unanimous. Thank you, everybody. So we'll move to item 7 via East Midlands update and the 2020 to 2021 overview. I'll do the recommendations after the presentation. So I'm just looking now. Is it Helen North who's going to present, or is it Doug?
Morning, Chair. It's me, Doug.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members and committee colleagues. This morning, this is an update, the regular update report of VIA on the development of the company, and as noted by the Chair, I am going to share a presentation with you. So if we wait, hopefully. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that presentation then. So,
yes, thank you.
So today I'm very conscious of time, so I will quickly run through this presentation. It is picking up the key points from our report. So it does provide an update of the progress of VIA. It's not intended to cover performance issues on the highway services contract or the delivery of works programmes as such. We do report those in different ways, including the performance indicators that come to this committee. And this is a look back over the last 6 months since we reported to Communities Place in March. So over on health and safety then, so it's really pleasing to report that we've had no RIDA reportable injuries. These are injuries which are reportable to the Health and Safety Executive for a period now of 17 months. And we've worked in total, including the VIA workforce and our subcontractors, over 1.5 million hours now worked without a reportable injury incident, which is an excellent result. We're putting a lot of focus on that and we'll continue to do so. Based on information on the slide, you can see we've seen a 20% reduction in both our injury, minor injury that is, and service damage incidents in the last 12-month period. We're continuing to do all of our inspections and they are picking up a lot of good work across all of our teams. On the environment side, we have had no significant issues to report to the Environment Agency. We are picking up more near misses now, and the team have become really engaged in our environmental processes and what we're trying to achieve, along with the inspections that we're doing on a regular basis across our depots and sites. In terms of performance quality assurance, as I mentioned earlier, our key performance indicators are reported regularly, and there is a suite of those that go through to the NCC client team, and those are discussed on a quarterly basis. In terms of our ISO standards, we had BSI came in.
Doug, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you, but if you think you're moving the slide presentation on, unfortunately, it's not moving on.
Oh. It is on my screen. That's odd.
Maybe
sorry
it's worth stops. Maybe it's worth unsharing and then starting again, perhaps.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. Don't worry. We'll just take a moment, members, to try and correct that, and then we'll get back underway.
I think it's, hold on.
Could ask Phil to sing us a song while we're waiting.
I'm out of practice, John.
Has the presentation completely disappeared from your screen now? I'm sorry about this.
No, Doug, we're still seeing your first slide. I think you might need to unshare your screen.
Which is what I have done, unfortunately.
Okay.
Right.
We may have a glitch.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I've unshared it. What I will do is I will close it on my computer and see what that does.
Hi, Doug. It's Noel, the committee clerk. You need to stop sharing what you're currently showing.
Yeah.
And reshare, but as a slideshow, so that you can then slide through the actual slides themselves. So if you remove what's currently there, unshare your screen, so to speak, and then look to share with the slideshow ready to roll.
Okay. We may have a glitch because the PowerPoint's completely closed on my machine now.
Members, just bear with us, please, while we try and work out how we can move on the agenda, because obviously we can't move on to another item because we're all seeing this on the screen as well. So just bear with us, please. We'll be right with you.
Hi, Doug. We're going to have to ask you to log out of the meeting in its entirety, and we'll request control and get it sorted when you come back on. But I'll leave it to the chair to decide whether we take another item in the meantime. Thank you.
Well, do we know how long it will take? Okay, we'll move on to item 8 then, and allow Doug to log back in, and then we'll allow him to present his report. So I think, is it Gary, are you doing Highways Winter Service item?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So this report sets out in detail our preparations, the County Council and VIA, for the forthcoming winter season for gritting response. It contains an update on service improvements, including the weather station renewals at Blythe and Tollerton. And it's pleasing to note that VIA have the full 18,000 tonnes of grit available in preparation for the new season. And VIA colleagues are well on track with preparations, including driver training and a review of any of the current or future impacts of COVID-19 has taken place, including our business continuity arrangements as described in the paper. And the recommendations, Councillor Cotty, are contained on page 81 of the meeting pack, and we're obviously happy to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Recommendation 1 is to endorse the procedures and communication arrangements set out in this report, which will ensure Nottinghamshire's Highway Winter Service is fully prepared to meet the challenges of the forthcoming winter season. And number 2, consider how they wish to monitor the actions and issues contained within this report. So I'll propose that recommendation.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this report? Anybody wish to speak? Councillor Greaves, are you trying to put a hand on?
Yes, I've succeeded, Chairman. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, just one thing. On paragraph 18, didn't it used to be 20,000 tonne that we used to stock? I seem to remember 20,000 tonne being stocked. I wonder why we've cut it down to 18. And in the view of current position that we are with COVID and Brexit, are we in the position that if we do have a severe winter, which likelihood we keep saying it, don't we? It's going to come one day, it's going to hit us, and we've been lucky so far. And I'm just wondering, with the current position with the COVID and Brexit, are we clearly able to get more rock salt under those conditions that we are at the moment with Brexit and COVID? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kevin. You want to come back on that, Gary?
Thanks, Councillor Greaves, for your 2 questions. On the first one, I'll have to come back to you on that because I'm not certain. I recall, I think that the figure was 16,000 previously, and it's gone up to 18, but I'm not certain, so I'll certainly have to come back on that. And in terms of the salt provision, we've been in touch with our supplier, and they've assured us that they've got everything and procedures in place for their extraction works, and they've done their analysis of the impacts of COVID on that, and there's limited impacts. And we've also spoken to them about their deliveries and their transport arrangements, and again, they've told us that isn't an issue. So we should be okay around that. And as I said earlier, we've also checked on our arrangements around driving and standby, and they're all COVID compliant and aren't causing any concerns at present.
Thank you, Gary. I've got Doug. You've got a hand up. I don't know if you want to speak on this item at all, or.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think I can answer the Councillor Graves' question on the change in capacity. What has happened is that we have found a planning consent issue at Markham Moor, which has meant that we've had to reduce the capacity of Markham Moor Barn, which accounts for the slight reduction in the quantity of salt we now hold.
Thank you very much, Doug. Okay with that, Kevin?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yes.
Thank you for the question. Okay. Right, we'll take it to the vote then, as there's no other hands showing. So are there anybody against the recommendations? Any abstentions? No, can't see any. So I therefore, it is agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll go back to item 7. So Doug, would like to have a second run?
Yes. Hi, Doug. Just to explain that Sarah Almond's on the call and will be able to share her screen momentarily, and then if you just call out next slide as and when, and between us we'll get it sorted. Thank you.
Apologies, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. If you could move on, please. Okay, so I won't go through all the detail again, but this just gives the statistics on the health and safety and the environment side, and we're really pleased with our health and safety performance, particularly the fact that we've had no reportable injuries in the last 17 months and over 1.5 million of hours worked. Okay, move on, please. So in terms of our performance and quality assurance, in August, we had 5 auditors from British Standards came for 11 days to do an accreditation visit against the 14001 Environmental Management Standard. This is one we've been working towards over a number of years now. And following a review of our system documentation and compliance, we have been recommended for assessment accreditation to that standard, and are now waiting on that certificate to come through. So it's a really great achievement. The audit only raised one non-conformity with some opportunities for improvement that we will follow up on as well. And we are now working towards building a continuous work on the integrated management system across all 3 of our standards. Thank you. In terms of finance, just a quick snapshot gives you an indication of what we're working in terms of our budget this year. We have seen, like a lot of other parts of the council and businesses, impacted quite significantly from COVID. We are currently projecting a £100,000 profit. I am assured that the way that we're working at the minute, that will increase as the year goes on, subject to further impacts, of course, of COVID that we're not aware of currently, but we have mitigated already a £1.2 million impact through the unproductive labour during the lockdown period, and also disruptions to external and commercial income over a sort of Q1 and the start of Q2 as such. Further information will clearly be provided to the VIA board on our performance, and that will feed through into members accordingly. Thank you. In terms of our external clients, we are continuing with our tendering work. We have seen a dip in tendering opportunities at the start of the lockdown period, but that has now returned to similar levels to what we saw before. We are still successfully picking up work for residential developers across the county, with recent work secured for William Davis and Westerman Homes. And that in itself is bringing a significant amount of work into VIA over the next 6 months or so. We are also have a number of packages of electrical and street lighting projects that we are delivering and still securing that work. In addition, we have been successful in picking up 2 traffic signal packages of work for Balfour Beatty on the Top Wiggy Farm development in Hucknall, and also on the Gar project, which we'll deliver over the next 18 months. And I'm pleased to say that our relationship with the ARC Partnership is becoming stronger and is continuing to develop. We've recently completed highway works at the Sharp Hill Primary School in Edwalton, and we'll soon start on the Lincroft development in Eastwood. We're also doing some elements of design, and we're also helping ARC with a number of their drainage projects across some of the schools across the county. Thank you. So just a little snapshot. Some of the work that we've recently delivered is the Sharp Hill School I've just mentioned for ARC. We've also done some work for North Midland Construction on the Three Ponds Junction at Nuttall, and we've done a couple of packages of work for drainage and surfacing for Rushcliffe Borough Council. That's just in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks we've delivered up those projects, and we have a fairly full programme of work coming in from the external over the coming 6 months. Thank you. In terms of looking at one of the innovations that we're progressing at the minute, so on the network management side, we carry out, as you're aware, regular surveying and inspections of the network. Currently, a third of the unclassified network is surveyed each year. The way that we worked in the past is that 2 operatives in a slow-moving vehicle log all the defects, which are then translated into the pavement management system. The data is broad, is not overly detailed. It's known as coarse visual inspection, which is regularly used across the industry, which gives an overview of the survey that we pick up. The output from that does tell us where there are defects, but doesn't help us prioritise those. We have to do a lot of work in the background and actually build the programme for that and look at where we need to do patching, surfacing, micro asphalt, etc. So we identified that we wanted to have a more targeted methodology of picking up defects, greater accuracy, using GPS, etc. And we are currently working with a company called Geist, who are a multi-award winning company who are providing a technological solution across a lot of the local authorities now in the UK and overseas as well. Thank you. So Geist use digital processes to provide the sort of overview and the deep insights. Their approach delivers highly detailed images of the highway network, and they are unrivaled in the intelligence and analysis that they provide. They've worked very closely with the Department of Transport in developing their artificial intelligence software, and that helps pick up defects, identification, and identifies what they call areas of interest for maintenance, whether that be schemes, patching, or preventative work. The first stage of that is high definition video data, which is captured, and that gives us condition information on the carriageways, the footways, cycleways, and also helps provide information on the asset and means we can update our inventory based on that information that's captured. Thank you. So this shows a little bit of a snapshot. So we get the video capture that has just landed with VIA, and we're now working with Geist to put condition analysis on the back of that. This is just a sample which shows the different sort of colours, and we work with Geist. And on this example, a blue would be where there's no treatment required. A yellow would be surface treatments, whether it be like a surface dressing or a micro asphalt. And an orange would be resurfacing, and red would be full construction. So that's a sample of how we'll start to build the overview up, and we can then sift it into different conditions by road, by district, and even at ward level. Thank you. So we can then use, working with Geist, we can set the various triggers for the different treatments that we want based on the levels of defects. And then we can start to build up the mappings for, so the diagram on the left-hand side would be a sample of the blue areas would be where we do surface dressing or micro asphalt, and then the red would be resurfacing as such. and we can dial in the different extents of the deterioration to match the budgets that we have available. And then on the right-hand side, those would be where we've identified a programme of patching, which we can then pull a full rolling programme and use our resources efficiently from that. So it's a very much a developing innovation at the minute. We're hoping to get the condition data with the treatment starting to build on that towards the end of this month and into November. But the overall aim is to match that condition data against the treatment selection options that we have and the budgets that are available to maximise the maintenance need and how we can actually address that across particularly the unclassified network. Thank you. So in terms of the Gedling Access Road, works are progressing really well on Gar. There was a full closure of the 612 near Burton Road in July to put a very deep drainage connection in at the bottom of Gar there. Those works went really well. There was a lot of excellent coordination between Balfour, their subcontractors, and Via supporting, along with the work that we did with the County Council to get the various closures in place. On the positive side, that was delivered approximately 36 hours early, which allowed all the works to be done and the road to be opened really ahead of schedule, which was great effort by all of the team. Thank you. So Balfour Beatty have continued construction right throughout the lockdown period, and since then they've made significant progress, particularly on the earthworks and the site clearance. And again, that is as a result of the excellent weather we've had. Via's continued to provide the project management service, but we work really collaborative with Gary Wood and his team in terms of key contract decisions, and overall is working really well as a collaborative combined team. And Gar is moving ahead really well, and long may that continue as the weather holds currently. Thank you. In terms of the capital programme, it is fair to say, and I know members are aware of this, that the capital programme was significantly impacted in the first quarter as a result of the pandemic. When we re-established that, we went through all of the schemes and we looked at those in terms of how easy they were to deliver, the availability of materials, the impacts on residents, etc., social distancing requirements, and the changes to the way that we've been working. And that helped us get the programme up and running and reprioritised. That recommenced in June, and Tarmac and other parts of our supply chain have been working really well to actually pick up this programme. Currently, we are doing the sort of mid-year review. We are very much looking intention to deliver the full programme, and that review will highlight if there are any risks, as there may well be on some schemes. Currently, last month and this month, there is a significant programme of surface treatment, particularly the micro-asphalt treatment, which was delayed from March and earlier in sort of June, July as well. But we've delivered a significant programme so far, and that will continue with additional resources right through to nearly the end of this month. Thank you. In terms of our operations and highway electrical team, with effect from the 1st of July, we brought the traffic signals maintenance contract back in-house, which was traditionally provided by an external tendered contract. That has allowed us to generate service improvements and supports the growth of this activity, both internally and externally. It's pleasing to see that in the first month, the performance levels have improved. The KPIs haven't changed as such, so we still have the same targets as when it was delivered by an external contractor, but we did improve on that within July. And we're also dealing with a significant increase in demand for temporary signal changes required by utilities, which is a service that we can generate income from, and it's quite key that we continue to deliver that service, but it does complement the work that we've been doing generally across our traffic signals team. Thank you. Further in our electrical team, as we reported before, we now have got the necessary accreditation in place to be an independent connection provider, and we're now on the Western Power Distribution Framework, which means that we are accredited to actually do connections into their network. Recruitment is underway to bolster our team to get some more cable jointers, and we have a level supervisor already in the team, and we're starting to deliver that work this month now, which is really good to get that in place now. We've also got our approval in place to be an electrical vehicle charging point installer. That's gone through all the authorisations, and on the 21st of September, we received approval through the Office for Low Emission Vehicles, the government body, which means that we can now draw down on grants from the government to support the installation of EV points both in homes and businesses, which is a great opportunity for VIA and the County Council to be able to, between us, deliver that service. Thank you. You've just heard the winter preparation paper and the winter service. So as you've seen from that paper, all the preparation has been put in place and we're ready to go as such. Salt barns are currently being restocked, will be within the next couple of weeks be topped to where we need those to be as such. We are bringing in a new telematics system that will be installed by the end of this month across all of the Greta vehicles, and that provides an electronic routing, which means that we could able to get additional data from the system. But the big thing for us is it generates efficiencies. It does allow us to use any driver who's had their City and Guilds training to actually drive any route, because the system actually provides the routing for them. So it gives us a lot more flexibility and improved service resilience, which has been a key aspect for us to put more into that going forward, particularly in line with the pandemic, etc. So it does give us that extra level of resilience. Thank you. In terms of fleet maintenance, that continues to work well. Throughout the early part of the pandemic, we did prioritise the vehicles of VIA, NCC and the fire service, and we've had a number of letters of thanks and things passed on to the team, which have recognised all that work. The growth of the business is continuing. We have started to rebuild relationships with some of the external customers that we'd engaged with before the lockdown. We have the facilities back up and running. All of the staff are back working in the new ways of working as such. But we are now supporting both our regular clients and attracting new clients coming in to that fleet business. Thank you. In terms of our staff engagement, so at the end of August, 79% of employees were on VIA terms and conditions, and we've continued very much so to bring apprentices and graduates into the business. We've had 3 gap year undergraduates commenced in the consultancy team last month from Trent University, Nottingham Trent, and from Derby. We've also recruited 4 highways construction apprentices into the operations team, and the recruitment is underway for a forestry apprentice, a couple of project manager apprentices and an HR apprentice, and we've identified some further opportunities across the operational team going forward. Our new training centre at Bilsthorpe Depot is progressing, albeit the schedule and the programme has been delayed because of the pandemic, but all of the foundations are now in place. The steel work for the building is currently in the factory, and that is anticipated this month to arrive at Bilsthorpe, and we are looking to open the new training centre by the middle of next month, and that will allow us to effectively double the capacity of the different training courses, and also allow us to deliver the new electrical training offering that we've been working on over the last few months. Thank you. So just to finish off, just so to give members confidence, we are still looking at different things moving forward. In addition to the GAST initiative, we have a number of initiatives. So we've got a couple of electrical welfare vehicles. The trial's coming later this month. We've brought in a smaller hot box to help with access on urban parts of the network. That came in towards the end of last month. We're looking to trial some mobile asphalt mixers with effect to later this month. On the back of some of the key learnings from the COVID and different ways of working, we've now instigated our smarter working arrangements review, and that will continue over the coming months, looking at how we will work differently going forward and the IT support that we need to put in place for that. And then finally, we are working closely with both the County Council, ourselves, and Cheesecake Energy Limited, who have affiliation with Nottingham University, looking at a renewable energy project which will be sited at Bilsop Depot. We've agreed some heads of terms at the minute, but we've got some documentation and things to put in place. But all going well, we should hope to have that up and running by the spring of next year. Thank you. That concludes my presentation. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions from members.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for the update and the overview of VIA for 2020 to 2021. That was excellent. Thank you. There's a recommendation on page 76 that the committee considers the report and presentation by VIA East Midlands and identifies any actions which may arise. I'll propose that recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions I've got? Councillor Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Doug, for that comprehensive update. Really interesting stuff that's going off there at the moment. I just wanted a couple of things. One is, first one, just to say thank you to the staff in my locality who provide services to me and the general public out there. Our local manager and the staff that assist her, because it is a very good first-class service. And very professional the way that they deal with the issues, even when they can't deliver. They give you a real good reason as to why they can't. The other issue coming is Geist. I'm interested in that because I'm just wondering whether that facility could be made available for members to look at, because obviously when you're talking, you can get it on a ward by ward basis. Clearly, we can see what's reported anyway then. And have an idea of what's projected. But the other thing along with that, it would be nice to see a date, because clearly, if you've got something that's reported and you've got it down, and then 2 years later the same stretch of roads reported and nothing's happening, it gives an opportunity for members to keep a check on that. And the other one was about treatments, and one of the disappointing things for me has been surface dressing. One of the estates, in fact, the estate where I live in Worksop, was completely done, which we were grateful for at the time. But actually, when you walk around now, it's deteriorating already, and there are already small holes appearing where water will collect and sort of cause problems earlier, I think, than in the future. And I just wondered whether who recommends what is done, whether it be so is that something where it's commissioned by the county council and that they say we want it surface dressed, or whether it's a recommendation from VIA relating to surface dressing. The other issue was, I'm interested in the electrical part, because clearly one of the problems, which is at 58 on page 75, and you mentioned it within your presentation. One of the issues that I know happens is when we've got, say, lamp columns that unfortunately sometimes get hit by vehicles, and then when you're trying to get them put back into action, a lot of the time the delays that I find is that it's down to the electricity supplier who cannot provide a quick enough service to come out. And I noticed that within that you've got Western Power, and just wondered whether that means that you'll be able to, wherever Western Power is, be able to sort of quicken up the fact of replacement lampposts or anything where there's electricity supply and we've had to wait in the future. And also, where does that impact on the north of the county, because obviously it's a different supplier. And whether you're looking to get the supplier from this end and get accreditation in this area as well, because I can see that being of benefit in turnaround. I mean, an example is a lamppost has been down at least 3 months now in a particular area where There's only a couple of lampposts anyway, so it makes it a very dark street, and the residents are concerned now. Hopefully it's been done this week, but it's took that long for that to be done because we were waiting for the electricity contractors. That's it, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glyn. I'm going to go through all the questions, Doug, if you're happy to come back afterwards, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
So I've got Councillor Kevin Greaves, please.
Thank you, Chair. Health and safety. I mean, we have got a good track record on health and safety and accidents. Do we ask our subcontractors to declare their 12th monthly safety records at all? I wonder if, if we ask them questions. Let me have a look. Oh yeah, paragraph 29. Obviously, it's welcome that we're taking this back in house, but when did it leave the house? Can you just tell us what year that was? All right. Paragraph 31 with the recycle waste tyres. That's very interesting. To make use of tyres, which I mean, millions and millions of them. It'd be good if it could be successful. Will we get a report on that outcome of that? And how long is the test period going for? Let me have a look. Paragraph 46. The new spray injection machine, which is now back running after its unfortunate beginning. How many potholes has that filled now? Can you give us a number of how many that has filled? And yeah, I, along with Glyn, paragraph 58, would like to know if Via are going to push out further and get accreditation to other power suppliers to be able to repair lamp columns. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Tom Hollis. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. And whilst there's a lot of good things in this report, can I take the opportunity just to thank officers like Gary Wood, Johnny Davis, and Carl Whitley, particularly. I just see a lot of gaps in the report. I'll start by the most gaping one. There is absolutely no mention of Viafix in this report. Whilst it's self-congratulatory, to just completely miss out Viafix seems to me to be disingenuous. I know it's put down as a quick fix, but the council having to return to many botched jobs. A blunt question being, Mr. Chairman, when is the use of Viafix being phased out? I mean, my eyebrows were raised when I mentioned the cheesecake. We're not going to start filling potholes with cheesecakes, are we? That would suggest at the end of that. Also, I know in the report it says that the Via is at an operating profit of £500,000. I also know that the staff are extremely overstretched. This is particularly true in the Ashfield and Mansfield area. Can we look at reinvesting some of this money in extra staff and resources? Even if the COVID-19 lockdown hadn't happened, this council would have failed to complete its highway maintenance programme. Now, with the delays caused by COVID-19, many roads are still not done. Next question, how confident are we that due to these delays that we can complete this year's capital programme and other programmes while still catching up with last year's? So the main thing here, Mr. Chairman, is we're asking the report genuinely for actions and recommendations. My thing I'd like to certainly push on you, and I'm sure you're having the same problems in your area, is genuinely our highways managers are overstretched, and I'd like to see some of this money reinvested in them so they can take more time and respond to people often my constituents get a generic response. I mean, I get copied into all the responses. I get the same email probably 10 times a day, which is just copied and pasted. I understand why staff have to do that, because they are just fundamentally cannot keep up with the demand that people are getting. My post bag is at least 40–50% highways issues, as well as, and that's including all the deputy leader work in Ashfield. That's what constituents are bothered about, whether it's flooding, whether it's repairs, whether it's maintenance work. So I'd certainly call for that. And probably my disappointment in this report, as well as it not just talking about ViaFix at all, would be the fact that, yeah, it's great talking about all this fancy stuff we're doing and contracts. I understand that Via is more flexible with regards to HR policy. You know, it's one advantage of having a separate thing. And I'm surprised to no Labour supporting this, bearing in mind, obviously, HR is a little bit more relaxed with regards to a private company like this. It seems to me ludicrous that we're taking on all this private work when we can't keep up with the demand of the basics, like potholes and various road repairs. So that's really all I've got to say at this stage. With the final thing that I do agree with Councillor Guilford with regards to the new gas technology. I know our highways team use Google Maps to do. This is just picking further up on that, but it just intrigued me to say is how much is it costing would be a final question on that, and is it really necessary, bearing in mind that they use Google Maps for a lot of the basics that's detailed here anyway, and what really is this benefiting past what the images that we've already got, and that's my contribution over there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your electioneering and very negative comments, Tom. Much appreciated.
Sorry,
thanks, Doug. If you'd like to come back, Doug, please, on those comments, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Right, hopefully I've got a load of them. I think it is fair to say that the work we're doing with GAST is at quite an early stage, and either between Gary and myself, we can pick this up.
Yeah, making all these comments, don't they? What it is.
But we do have in Councillor Wheeler's committee, Review and Development Committee, and then in the coming, I think it's next month actually, in November's committee, we are actually looking at asset management, and there will be a number of presentations and updates to that committee, including the work that we're doing with GAST, and that will in the future filter back through to this committee, so that we will be able to provide additional information to members going forward. In terms of Councillor Guilford's question about the surface dressing, I'm happy to have a look at that on the workshop with Straight. That is a concern, and we'll work with our supply chain if we have some problems there. In terms of who recommends the different treatments, again, that is part of the asset management process. So we would work together with our asset management colleagues, but we work with members of Gary and Martin and their teams as well to review what we're putting forward. But we do also take the advice of our supply chain in terms of what are the best materials to be used for the different types of road across the network. So it isn't just a sort of random, we'll look at surface dressing on this road or micro asphalt on that. And we do take on board some of the issues that have come out in the past in terms of some of the surface dressing on cul-de-sacs where we have had some issues. And that's why we're doing a much bigger micro asphalt programme this year and more likely going forward. In terms of the electrical side, both Councillor Graves and Guilford picked up this issue. Yes, the intention is that we will be able to dramatically reduce the length of time to connect lamp columns that need repairing. Yes, we have the accreditation through Lloyds now, so we are the independent connection provider through the Lloyds register. We have got on WPD's Western Powers framework, but that should hopefully open the doors onto other frameworks going forward. So that would be something that we are looking to do as Via, so that we can provide service across the county. Councillor Graves, health and safety, any subcontractor that works for us already they do have to declare their safety records, and they're included within our figures because we are the principal contractor. The only one that's slightly outside of that is Tarmac, because on the schemes Tarmac deliver, they are their own contractor, but they still do declare their health and safety information to us. The traffic signals contract, I will have to come back to Councillor Greaves. I don't know when that originally went out. It's before the creation of VIA is my recollection of it, but I will come back to you on that. Recycling rubber from waste tyres. Yes, we've done a trial with Tarmac on that, and they've done a number of trials of some work on the M1 as well recently, last year, I think it was. It is going through a monitoring period, and the intention is that we would like to roll that out further. And we expect to look over a 12-month period to see how that performs and then make a decision on how we could maybe use that going forward. In terms of the Roadmaster, we commenced with the County Council via Roadmaster. It was due to start in April, but because of the pandemic, we didn't actually start in June. We've been running that machine now for a total of 14 weeks. Although I can't give you the total number of potholes, what we have delivered is 6,050 square metres have been delivered from that machine over the last 14 weeks. I can provide other details if you need them, and I'll talk to you separately, Councillor Greaves. In terms of Councillor Hollis, that VIAFIX as such wasn't mentioned in the report. It is still one of the key parts of what we need to use to make sure that we keep the network safe. Our figures show that we don't return to VIAFIX failures as such. It is other failures adjacent to where the original potholes were, but we are rolling out a programme of preventative maintenance. In addition to the Roadmaster, we have done nearly 19,000 square metres of patch planing over the last 14 weeks as well. So we are getting to the stage where we are doing more permanent repairs, but VIAFIX is something that is being used. It will be reviewed as part of that asset management review through the Councillor Wheeler's Review and Development Committee. In terms of reinvestment of the profits, we have a certain profit we need to achieve to provide a dividend back to the County Council, which is benefit to the Council. Anything that we make as additional profit above that level, the intention is that through the VIA board and discussions with the members who sit on that board, we would look to reinvest within the service that we provide. That is the intention going forward. And I believe that the team, in terms of we have increased the district management teams. Yes, we do have a lot of inquiries, but they are doing the best to keep on top of those. And, you know, we are constantly looking at the resources that we provide. Hopefully I've picked everything up, Chair.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you very much. And also, just to remind members, promote the MyNots app, because then you won't get the emails. They'll go straight to Highways and VIA. I've got 2 speakers left, and then I'm going to move on to the vote because we're nearly into 2 hours of the meeting. So I've got Councillor Lawton, followed by Councillor Wheeler, Gordon Wheeler. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Just a quick one, Doug. Congratulations, really. I'm really pleased that you've taken the bull by the horns and actually taken on the connections and also the traffic lights. It was a bone of contention. People were slinging the lead, keeping traffic lights over weekends and all this sort of stuff, and not replacing them and not returning when traffic lights were working properly. So I'm really pleased you've taken those back in control, because that gives us opportunities as members to be able to deal direct with you, to be able to sort out any problems that we might have. So that's a really good news story. So well done on your innovation. Please continue down that route. You're doing a great job. You know, for us as councillors, and also generating profits, you know what I mean, that is a really good thing with the private sector. You know, you're out there giving it some, and that's a real positive both for us as members and also councils. Just one point of of warning, really. You will be aware of the massive fraud that was recently instigated over your payments that came through from the county council. If you're not, then you just need to speak to our officers in the finance. Just need to perhaps change your processes in place as far as the funding is concerned through the county council to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Okay.
Yeah, and Gordon, can you speak after Pauline? Because as a member of the committee, she wants to say something, and then if you could come in afterwards, I'd appreciate it. Thanks, Pauline. You're on.
Right, thank you. I have a site visit in Doncaster at 1:30, and in order to get warm clothes on and my boots and have a sandwich, I need to go. All right. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, it keeps doing it on me. There's a hint there somewhere, but thank you very much, Pauline.
Is that
Sorry
all right?
to see
Thank
again,
you.
but yeah, thank you. So, Gordon, thank you. Wait, have you got me, Gordon, or have you frozen? Councillor Wheeler?
Yes, sorry, John. Sorry, John, there was a technical problem. I'm back on again now.
Okay, thank you.
It was just very briefly to say that Doug's already touched on it. Asset management was looked at by my committee at the last meeting, which was only a few days ago. It will be looked at the next meeting again. Now, I welcome the contribution Councillor David Martin makes at those meetings. He really is such a positive gentleman. Councillor, sorry. He comes in with some great ideas. He works with the committee. We are putting out the slides to every single member on that committee. And if Tom, Councillor Hollis, wants copies of the slides, we will happily send them to electronically. I'm sure Gary is listening and will organise that. Please look at it. If you want a conversation, Tom, and anyone else, after you had a chance to read, digest, consume the slides, of course, talk to me. Very happy to do so. Also talk to David, who has an immense amount of knowledge, which has emerged from the committee. And as Doug said, we've got a further committee meeting, which will be looking at asset management as well. So please use that as well. And I will also say, congratulations to Laura Trussell, our district manager, who's absolutely excellent, gets back in a day or two on absolutely everything that I bombard her with, and I do sometimes. And I apologise profusely for that. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks for those comments, Gordon. I think I'm back on. Right, so we go to the vote then, please. Are there any votes against the report? No. Any abstentions?
Abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, one abstention. Any others? No. So the rest are in favour. So that's passed. Thank you very much. Right, we've been in for 2 hours now, so I want to get moving on because we've got 5 other items to go through. So the next is item 9, improving the environment and recycling in Rushcliffe. So I shall go to the recommendation. First point on the recommendations is to approve the development of an additional recycling centre in Rushcliffe. And number 2 is to approve officers submitting a planning application to the preferred site of Hollygate Lane in Cotgrave. So I propose that recommendation.
Happy to second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I now invite Mick Allen to present the paper, please. Thanks, Mick.
Thanks.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's all right, Chair. I'm mindful of the time. I'll keep this very brief. The report seeks approval to the principle of developing a new recycling centre to serve the Rushcliffe area, and to officers progressing a planning application for the preferred site, which is off Hollygate Lane in Cotgrave. The proposal will not only support the council's ambition to minimise the impact of its operations on the environment and increase recycling levels, but also address the current capacity constraints in the recycling network in Rushcliffe. Committee are asked to consider detail in the report and approve the recommendations, and as always, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mick. Councillor Rostance.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief introduction, just following on from Mick. As I'm aware, there's been a bit of confusion and speculation following the late withdrawal of the report last month, which was due to a simple drafting error. But in short, it's a real positive for the county and Rushcliffe area, who have been in desperate need of a new facility for many years now. We've seen the growing population, further housing growth in the area. It's causing other sites to become overwhelmed by the increase in demand. And as Mick said, we've seen firsthand during the lockdown period in Councillor Wheeler's patch, the immense pressures that West Bridgeford Recycling Centre has been under recently. And we've had to put some extensive measures in place to try and ease the flow and congestion there. But here we're looking to invest in a new facility which will alleviate some of those pressures, and we're fully committed to delivering an additional site here in Rushcliffe. And this facility will provide a service that's fit for the future. But I must stress that today we're only looking at deciding on the site location and whether or not to move forward with the planning stages. And as Mick's already stated, the proposed site is located on the former Cotgrave Colliery site and is currently being used as grazing land. But the real meat will be put on the bones when the official planning application is submitted, and that is when we'll be able to address the concerns of layout, design, screening, highways, and any other concerns that members and residents have. But we'll ensure that there's going to be an extensive consultation process which will outlining the plans, and we'll fully engage with both residents and members if this is passed, and people will have the opportunity to have their say before any final decisions are made. So with that in mind, Mr. Chairman, I hope that members can support these proposals and we can move forward to the planning. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rostance. Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think ultimately, while this £2.5 million new recycling centre is going to be welcomed by the people in Rushcliffe, I can't tell you how frustrated and upset residents of Ashfield and Mansfield are. And I'm equally frustrated probably to Councillor Rostance proclaim how great it's going to be for the people of Rushcliffe when over 2.5 years ago we asked for a feasibility study for Ashfield and Mansfield. It was recognised as part of the early studies that we were going to need a new centre in our area. A provisional £2 million was originally looked at. You yourself, Mr. Chairman, acknowledged in the full council that there was a need for an additional centre in the Ashfield and Mansfield area. And the simple question is while I certainly don't object to Rushcliffe having their new centre, it's just clear to me that the same logic and the same reasoning that Councillor Rostance just gave is exactly the reason why the Ashfield and Mansfield area need a new one. Your own government has just stipulated that Ashfield requiring us to build another 8,000 properties over a 10-year period. The evidence is there that we are overstretched now and building more properties in the future, which is going to make us even more overstretched. And the simple question is, what work's been done into the Ashfield and Mansfield site since the 2 years plus that we first asked for it, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee wish to speak before I ask the local member, Councillor Guilfoyle? Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'm just trying to find the other report. I just wondered what the drafting differences are, if you could point them out to us, please.
Any other member of the committee? I'll get answers for you at the end when everybody's spoken. So I'll go to Councillor Lawton. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I mean, this is a really, it gets very tiring, Mr. Chairman, whenever there is a report on any particular issue. The Ashfield member just shouts up, "We want it, why can't we have it?" When we could all do the same. You know, I lost a recycling centre in Southall, but do every time this report comes on this particular issue, do I shout up about it? No. And if everybody did it, the meeting would take about 6 hours.
Thank you. Okay, any other committee members? Okay, so Councillor Richard Butler. And then I'll go to Councillor Gordon Wheeler. Is Richard Butler? He was with us a minute ago. Do you want to go, Gordon? And I'll get Richard afterwards, if he's back.
Thank you, John. Firstly, as has just been said, this is an additional recycling centre for Rushcliffe. There is some misunderstanding that's going to replace the recycling centre on Rugby Road in West Bridgford. It's not. It's going to be additional site, recycling centre when it goes through the formal processes. Well, I would like to say that there's now a booking system in place for the Rugby Road Recycling Centre, and a huge thank you to Phil and of course the officers as well for making this happen. Wow, what a difference this has made to my life, I can tell you that. Emails have almost stopped all of a sudden, where I was getting about 20, 30, 40 a day, and most of them quite strong.
My internet's gone off. I've been cut off.
Just to say thank you guys all very much. It's going really well at the moment. The reaction from the public's been great. I've used it once on the new booking system, and I said it worked like a dream. The people on site, the Viola officers have been tremendous, really helpful as well. So feed that back, please. It's a good news story now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Are you there, Richard? Richard Butler?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
There's obviously some conspiracy going on. I've been sitting through your really genuinely interesting meeting for the last 2 hours, and it's just come onto my bit, and the whole internet's just gone.
It was nothing personal.
Right. Anyway, thank you ever so much for letting me join your meeting on this. And obviously, I'm speaking as the local member in Cotgrave. Now, of course, normally a local member, wherever you are, if you're told you're going to have £2 million or £2.5 million invested in your area, you're naturally very pleased. But I think it's very important to remind members as to why this is having to happen in the first place. And this goes back 5 or 6 years to the completely bonkers decision of the previous administration to close down a perfectly good, well-used, well-located household recycling centre 4 or 5 miles away from here in Langer. And at the time, people really thought we were being sort of a bit like nincompoops, really, because it was a good facility. It was on a industrial or small business park, so and it was well used. And we tried our best, because we were in opposition back then, to try and get the message across to the administration that this was a very short-sighted and it was the wrong sort of thing to do. Completely. Well, it was the wrong thing to do. We warned what would happen, because West Bridgford, everyone knew then that West Bridgford was struggling to cope with the use that it was receiving then with 2 recycling centres. So to force everyone in Rushcliffe to have to go to West Bridgford put extra pressure on. And we also had worries about fly tipping as well, and that did prove to be the case. But anyway, we are where we are and we've got this suggestion in place now. As you might imagine, there is some comment and concern from residents, because when people think or read about a recycling centre, the common terminology is not what we would use. People refer to tips and dumps. So it's very important that we are very clear and explain to everyone who is interested just how this proposed recycling centre will work. Also, actually, I do need to correct one slight typo in the report, and that is the site that we're talking about. Yes, it is part of the old Cotgrave colliery, but it's not used for grazing. It's actually used for this particular area. Is actually has wheat on it. It's arable use at the moment, but that's just a small but significant point. But if you agree today to go to planning, which is the next stage of this, I would ask very strongly that all the concerns that certainly I'm receiving and colleagues are receiving are taken seriously, taken on board, and in particular with regards to the appearance of the site, the landscaping, the access off the road, and its relation to the nearby neighbours. So really, I just really want to get those points across. I understand completely why we're having to do this, but it's essential that we get it right between us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Go back to Mick. Do you want to pick up on some of those points, please, for me?
Yeah.
I'll come back to Phil afterwards.
Yeah, okay, Chair, thank you very much for that. Yeah, quickly on the things that have come up there. Obviously, Councillor Wallace is right. We have been looking at options around Mansfield and Ashfield. There is a significant amount of growth in that area. The reality is we've already got 2 recycling centres that serve Ashfield already. We've got Kirkby and Hucknall. as well as actually 2 sites in the Mansfield district at Warsop and particularly the Mansfield town site that are very close to that area to start with. Clearly, I think there is going to be need for improvement there, whether that's additional capacity or changes to the layouts or whatever else we can achieve. But he's absolutely right that housing growth is substantial across a number of areas. But the reality is, as Gordon Wheeler has pointed out, that the local issues at West Bridgford have exacerbated that through the COVID pandemic, and clearly it's been a long-term aspiration of the organisation to have a better capacity allocation within the wider Bridgford area. So we do continue to work around Ashfield Mansfield. It's just that initially we need to deal with the problems in the priority order that we've got them at the moment, unfortunately. Councillor Guilfoyle's question about drafting, actually just the drawing that was wrong last time, although we've clearly, from what Councillor Butler has pointed out, we've actually got the grazing wrong. I think the land is subject to a grazing licence, although it has had a crop on it this year. So I think that's why the confusion on that. But it was originally just the drawing was incorrect. The drawing was from last time was a draft layout based on a guess in effect as to what it looked like, but actually the levels on the site didn't work effectively in terms of that layout. So the layout drawing that was provided was just going to cause more confusion. So we're now in the process of getting the formal topographical surveys done, and obviously all the other work that needs to be done in order to inform a detailed design and obviously a consultation and planning process. Obviously, we've just raised a number of things, but I think they're your issues, really, Phil. If you want to come back on.
Thank you, Mick. Do you want to come back on anything, Phil? You're muted.
Just to reassure Councillor Butler that we will be as transparent as possible, make sure we give everybody the opportunity to have their say. We'll see if we can do a proper consultation. However, the COVID will allow, usually we'd have drop-in sessions, but we'll see if we can do something either online or door-to-door via some kind of leafleting. But that's something that we can discuss together at a later stage. But we'll make sure that all of the residents are kept well informed. And it's really good to hear that things have improved in West Bridgford, your end as well, Councillor Wheeler. Thank you, Chairman.
I think just to bring it into context as well, I think the impact of closing the second recycling centre did have a big impact in West Bridgford, and Rushcliffe is actually partway through 13,700 houses coming. So the demand on that service would not be coped with by the West Bridgford site, as it was struggling at the time. Okay, so we'll move to the vote then, please. Are there any votes against the recommendation?
Can I just come back? I did have my hand up.
Well, we're not coming back to people, Tom. It's too late in the day. I'm sorry. We've had 2.5 hours nearly.
I seem to be the only member, Mr. Chairman, that you make comment about and don't allow back. There's been multiple members come back on many items.
Not on this item, they haven't. I've said we're moving it on.
Well, it was simply to thank Mick for his response. And I really appreciate the detailed response he gave me to my questions. I think probably the only thing I was lacking was, is the Ashfield and Mansfield site going to be looked at, and if so, when? But failing that, I thought it was a really good discussion. And frankly, Mr. Chairman, you demean yourself by not able to.
No, you do, Tom. You can stop now. It's about Rushcliffe. It's not.
Member,
I'm sorry.
My job is.
We're not talking about Ashfield's recycling centre. We're talking about one in Rushcliffe. No, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you.
£2.5 million.
So we're going to the vote. So those against.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Hollis.
No, Mr.
Then
Chair.
put it in an email to Mick and ask him. We're not talking about Ashfield's recycling centre.
Don't to account. Don't.
No, sorry. He's not answering it.
I'm not asking to. I was thanking him.
Right. Yeah, you weren't. You were asking him.
Okay,
so
well,
thank you. Those against? There are none against. Any abstentions? No abstentions. So it's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is the Nottinghamshire County Council High Street and Mattersley Road, Everton, prohibition of waiting. The recommendation is that this scheme should be implemented as advertised and the objectors informed accordingly. Doug, are you taking that?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, this is the purpose of the report. Consider the objections received for the prohibition of waiting on High Street and Mattersley Road in Everton. I would reference members to revision A of the drawing, which was the revised proposals following dialogue with the parish council. Details of the objectives, objectives and the responses that are in the paper, and the recommendation is as declared by you, Chair. Thank you.
So I've proposed that recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Go to the vote then. Anybody voting against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. So go to item 11. No. Yes. Trent Lane, East Bridgeford experimental traffic regulation order to make permanent. And the recommendation is that the experimental traffic regulation order is made into a permanent order and the objectors be informed accordingly. And I propose that recommendation.
Happy to second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, so again, purpose of this report is to consider the objections received in respect of making the experimental traffic regulation order permanent. It was put in place following committee on the 6th of December 2018, and throughout the consultation period there are 5 objections that were received as detailed in the report, and the recommendation is that it is made a permanent order.
Okay, thank you. And I also know that the local member who's contacted me in the last couple of days is in support of it. So any questions or comments? Go to the vote. Anybody against? Any abstentions? That's unanimous then. Thank you. Agenda item 12, Musters Road, West Bridgeford, provision of a zebra crossing. And the recommendation is the controlled zone for the proposed zebra crossing on Musters Road be implemented as advised and objectors notified accordingly. I did receive an email yesterday of objection from a resident, which I passed on to Gary Wood to respond to, which he did do for me. Thank you, Gary. So I've proposed the recommendation.
I'll second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And thank you, Doug.
Okay, so this is the report to consider objections to the Musters Road provision of zebra crossing West Bridgeford. I'd like to bring members' attention to an error in paragraph 12, where the daily traffic flow is currently typed as 4,550 vehicles per hour on the data from 2016. That should have been 3,550 vehicles per hour. There is also a supplementary survey carried out in 2019 which showed 3,540, so very little change. The details that Chair you've just referred to in terms of that objector were already included within the report, along with the couple of other objectors, and the recommendation is that the zebra crossing, the proposal that the controlled zone for the proposed zebra crossing Musters Road is implemented as advertised.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon Wheeler, you wish to say something?
Thank you, John. What should be recognised, which isn't in the report, the Sharpeville development, if anyone's been there long, see it very recently, it's a hive of activity. When that opens, the level of traffic along Musters Road will increase tremendously. Both public transport and vehicles who are going to access the site down Musters Road and into Boundary Road. So although there's been a slight drop in the level of traffic from the 2017 figures, those figures are going to shoot through the roof once that site opens in its entirety. And I'm glad to see that Doug Coates is nodding in agreement. It will do, no question about it whatsoever. I must thank Suzanne Hayden, because Suzanne has been brilliant in liaising both with Jonathan Wheeler and myself and the school council in putting together this programme. It's the children who have driven this. It's the health and safety of our children, which is foremost above anything else. Any other concerns, financial or otherwise, people may have. First and foremost is the safety of our children. Let's not forget that or lose sight of it. It is so important. The school council within the school, the kids have been fantastic in driving the petition in, let's be honest, harassing Councillor Wheeler, Jonathan Wheeler and myself into working with them, and we were delighted to do so in bringing this forward to Buyer through Suzanne and the team, and now the papers are in front of you today. We really would we haven't been able to get a patrol officer, despite actually there being a banner out at the school asking for patrol officers. Even the staff in the school, from those who make the dinners to everyone else, we haven't been able to find any such person. This is the answer. It has to be the answer, and it's paramount we deliver safety to our children. Please, I would recommend every single member here give it the unanimous support in a couple of minutes' time. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Anybody else wish to speak? I see no other speaker. So we'll go to the vote then. Any vote against? Any abstention? That's unanimous then. Thank you very much. That's passed. Item 13, responses to petitions presented to the Chairman of the County Council. And the recommendation is the proposed actions be approved and the lead petitioners be informed accordingly. And secondly, the outcomes of committees consideration be reported to full council. So I'll move that recommendation.
I'll second that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments about any of the petitions? Councillor Greaves, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a bit of clarity actually on petition C regarding memorials. What's the position on this about County Council ability to give money for memorials to be erected? I didn't know we did that. Probably what's it constitution regards memorials at the side of the road? It's just a bit of clarity actually. I didn't know that we gave money to memorials to be erected. Just a bit of clarity, Chairman, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are you happy to come back on that, Gary, please?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Greaves. It's an interesting question. I'd have to look up the detail in the highway network management plan on that one and get back to you. It's not something that we normally do, but we do sometimes have flexibility around these issues because of their sensitivity.
Okay, Kevin, we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. We'll go to the vote then. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous then. Thank you. Item 14 is the work programme. Any questions or comments? Councillor Hollis?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just following on from the constructive discussions we've had so far, I'd just like it to be formally recognised in the work programme that a review will take place of the Ashfield and Mansfield recycling centres. So if we could have that inserted into the work programme, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
We'll have a look to see when it's going to come back, Tom, and we'll come back to you and let you know. I'm not trying to hide it away. I'll see where they are with it, and I'll make sure it gets put in the programme when I know from Mick Allen where we are with it. Okay. Okay. Anybody? Any questions about it? Yeah, Kevin, Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one actually. Will cycling routes that has been drafted, plan that has been gone to DFT, been circulated to members for consideration as yet? And will it?
I don't know if is Gary still on. I know that we've not got anything back on tranche 2. But
I'm still here, Councillor Cotty, if you want me to answer that.
Yeah, if you can, Gary. Yeah, because I'm not sure where the up-to-date situation is on it.
So on the some of the tranche 1 elements where we've gone to the community to consult, and so that consultation is just coming to an end, and so we need to reflect on the consultation. And as you rightly say, Councillor Cotty, for the tranche 2 submissions, the DF that's with the DFT, and we're waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, thank you. Nobody else? Okay. Oh, Councillor Guilfoyle. Yep.
Sorry, Chairman. I did have it up earlier, and then it's obviously not sure. Just looking through the just on the cycling. One of the questions I've been asked by someone is air quality being given its due consideration alongside the cycling plan. In particular, we know recently with the last not so much traffic about, air quality's improved right across the board, and also can we have an update on the corporate environmental strategy and the monitoring of carbon emissions? Could that be added to the work programme?
Yeah, I don't see a reason why not, but I'll check with officers and then we'll come back and let you know on where we are with it and get something sorted. I know that with cycle lanes, you know, like Trent Bridge is a hotbed of, you know, fumes and one of the highest areas in the county. And I know that they were trying to look at how to get cycling across that. So, but yeah, we can sort something out on that, Glenn.
Exactly, okay. Chairman. There is an impact, and I just wonder whether that's
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input. I shall close the meeting. Thank you very much.